Community Schemes Ombud Services, that's the CSOS, has introduced new rules clarifying that townhouses and apartment complexes cannot ban certain things. Now, complexes cannot ban or stop domestic workers from talking to each other. They can't ban cannabis use in private units. They also can't impose unfair fines or even forbid cultural or religious animal slaughter, though some oversight may be required. To explain these changes, we're joined by Smee, the CEO of Realty Property Group, is joining us right now. Grant, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Some interesting changes. How big are these changes really? And you know, what has been key to these changes really happening at this time?
So I think there's no change to the legal sort of framework or the laws and the Act, but it is a directive that's been implemented or rolled out by CSOS to just provide clarity in terms of how they review the Act and how to be decided upon in adjudication. So I think it's important that it's, for the first time, a single source of truth in terms of providing clarity for people to refer to when it comes to rules in particular in their estates and complexes.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily law, it's a directive that you're now, they can't stop you from doing these aspects or these things.
Correct. So that there's no change to the law, and it's not creating primary law, but what it is doing is providing guidance to owners and managing agents and trustees on how CSOS, who oversee section title schemes and HOAs, will make decisions and determine whether rules are unfair or can be applied in the complexes.
Why now? What's triggered the shift or created this directive to come through? I mean, was there legal pressure, public demand, or was there something else?
So I think through a lot of the adjudication orders that have come through CSOS as well as court cases, they've been seeing that there's been a lack of clarity in terms of the application of the Act and how those are practically implemented in the various complexes. And they've seen a need now to replace all the prior directives which have been quite fragmented and individually issued, and provide one single place that people can refer to provide real clarity. So I think it just is a nature of time. CSOS is relatively new in terms of property, so it's just that they've had an opportunity to see court cases and adjudications through and now provide clear direction.
Yeah, I mean, I find it very interesting. Some of these changes that have been implemented in parts of this, domestic workers, you know, can't be banned from speaking to each other. And I found it very interesting that it speaks in the negative. So it says that they can't be banned from, not that they're allowed to. Is there anything specific that we should be taking from the wording, number one? And can body corporates then still ban where, you know, they become pet friendly, as they say? So can they still ban you from having pets, short-term rentals, for example, Airbnbs, as it were, and maybe even having home businesses?
So I think it's important that the fact that it really is tackling overreach by managing agents as well as trustees. So in the past, what we've been seeing within our business as well as in CSOS directives is there's been a large level of overreach by both managing agents and trustees in terms of implementing rules that they maybe feel should be implemented in their schemes, but don't consider the fairness of them or the law at large. So it is a real issue around overreach, and I think that's what they've been trying to deal with directly. So in terms of the wording itself, it just is saying what the trustees and managing agents can't do, and that's what they're directly trying to deal with. And then in terms of what you can and can't rule out, they can, for example, say that there needs to be a rule around the implementation or allowance of pets, but it can't be a blanket ban on pets in a complex. It needs to be considered quite carefully, same as Airbnb and same as businesses. But CSOS and the directive itself doesn't rule out other parts of the Act and other rules around zoning and use of your property and certain other things. So it needs to be seen in terms of law around property, the section title schemes, as well as other laws that may apply.
Yeah. What's been your assessment of conversations you've had with people, particularly when it comes to ritualistic slaughtering of animals or traditional slaughtering of animals or even religious forms of the same thing? What has been the conversation like for that? Because one imagines that there would be a bit of an uproar, but some saying, well, how else do we then do it?
Yeah, so I think it's a super sensitive topic that is really difficult to deal with, particularly in South Africa, where there's a big mix of cultures and religious approaches and everything else. So I think the important part is communication and a structure around certain requirements. And so if somebody does need to take part in a religious slaughtering of an animal, it's around communication and the structuring of that within the complex, which I think is important. I think where it comes back to is people feel that their opinions override people's other abilities to partake in certain religious activities, which is important to note that really the law applies, and it's very important outside of the law that there's very clear communication between trustees, owners, if these events are going to occur, and how that's managed properly.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't always necessarily make your heart as the Realty Group a lot more difficult, but still as trustees, it becomes very difficult because it must redefine, in many ways, communal living, right?
Yeah. I mean, communal living is a super difficult one, and it was always sold as the sort of the solution to a lot of issues in South Africa, security, provision of amenities. But what isn't considered is taking people from diverse backgrounds, diverse cultural backgrounds, nationalities, everything else, and place them in very close proximity to living. And I think this, again, comes back to the reason why CSOS needed to put this directive in place, is really guide people and provide a framework for them to refer back to if they have an issue with something in the complex, if they see something as unfair and they want to complain, or they have a source of truth to refer to make sure that they can approach the authorities in the right manner.
Yeah, Grant, just very quickly, does this affect at all pricing when it comes to complexes or townhouses, do you think? Is it going to change any of that aspect?
So I think a few people thought that it's going to sort of, because there's now more structure, more regulation, it's going to have an impact in the negative. I actually feel it's the exact opposite, because it's providing the clarity that is required to make sure that people have a place to go and a structure to implement if they do not agree with certain rules. I think it's actually going to encourage people to take or move into sectional title and HIAs more than before. So I think it's actually going to have a positive impact on community living overall.
Yeah. Grant, it's very, very interesting conversation. We're actually running a poll ourselves this morning, and we've been asking just, complexes are now allowed to have ritual animal slaughter for cultural or religious reasons, of course, with that oversight, as we've just been speaking about. And we've asked for the thoughts of those that are voting today. And we asked, is it a protected right, or no, they shouldn't be allowed to do it in a complex? And the other element here was only with oversight. I can tell you it's generally still fairly tighter than some of the other polls we've hosted. It's a protected right is winning out by 57%. But no, not in complexes, is at 42%. And I know that still seems a little bit off compared to 57, but just consider the fact that there are many people who are living in those complexes who are saying perhaps they should not be a part of this situation. So very interesting, and I thought we should add that as well to this entire comment. I don't know.